Hello, this is Sam Visnic again from endyourbackpainnow.com/blog, and today I'm going to show you one of the most effective techniques for assisting in training your anterior pelvic tilt lifestyle for improving your situation and decreasing your pain when you have a disc herniation, disc bulge, whatever you want to call it. So what's most important in these situations, as I'm again referring to the posterior variety of the disc bulge, is to avoid flexion at all costs. And this is very challenging for most people who have not done any kind of postural training in the beginning. So there's a quick way to help you understand where your posterior and anterior pelvic tilts are actually happening. In a previous video I have discussed how to go into anterior pelvic tilt, and now we need to make sure that we're holding on to that all day long. So I have an assistant with me here today, a good friend of mine, Karen Gutierrez. She runs a website, pilateskaren.com. It's a shameless promotion there, so I urge you to check it out. And she's here today to help show us how the taping method can be effective at making sure that we don't go into flexion, thus increasing disc pressure and making disc herniation pain worse. So what I've done is I've gotten some athletic tape, and we want a strong set of athletic tape and some that's not too flexible, because we want to make the spine rigid and we want to stop you from going into flexion, not just having a supportive tape that flexes. In this situation, that's pretty useless. So actually what I've done, if I have Karen turn around, is I've put the tape on her lumbar spine, and I've ran 2 strips of tape slightly below the PSIS bones, the posterior iliac spine, and a little bit onto the sacrum just to make sure that it sticks. And I've run it up to about T8, T9, so the thoracic vertebrae. If you find the lower rib, it's going to be about 2 levels up from that. Now when I run those strips of tape up the back side of the spine, it's going to create a certain amount of pressure. So how you apply this is you have yourself perform an anterior pelvic tilt until you feel a good amount of relief. The more relief you have in a lot of anterior pelvic tilt, that's where you should tape yourself. So with her, I've given her about 10 degrees of anterior pelvic tilt, and then while holding the anterior pelvic tilt, I ran the strips of tape up her spine. Now, if she turns to the side for me here, those pieces of tape are holding her into that pelvic tilt. As she starts to allow her pelvis to drop back into neutral, the tape is going to tighten. So it's going to let her know that she's going into posterior pelvic tilt, and posterior pelvic tilt flattens the lumbar spine. So it's going to educate her nervous system on where the position is that she needs to stay in order to reduce disc pressure. Now also the same thing is going to happen if she were to attempt to flex forward. As she flexes forward, and by the time she gets down to about T8, T9, that tape is going to really start to tighten and alert her that she's gone too far into flexion. Again, as I mentioned, that we want to avoid flexion of the lumbar spine at all costs when there's a posterior disc herniation. So this is a very effective technique for this. Of course, you're going to need 2 people. You're going to need a partner to assist you, that when you go into the anterior pelvic tilt, into the position that's ideal, for them to run the strips of tape up the spine. And again, if you happen to not get this perfect, don't worry about it. It's still a great teaching tool. So we want to make sure that as you put this tape on, you train yourself on all sorts of positions. And I urge you to try things such as trying to squat down to the floor to pick something up, or to get in and out of the lower cupboards in your kitchen while holding this curve. Because what you may find is that there are a lot of times that you're flexing your lumbar spine when you really shouldn't be. So this process, at first, holding your spine into that ideal position is completely unconscious, and you need to consciously train yourself on how to do it. And if you do this, you'll be very successful at reducing disc pressure, which in the long run is going to be the thing that really helps you heal from a disc herniation. So I hope this has been helpful, and I urge you to try this technique. And even if you don't have a disc herniation and you have regular old back pain run-of-the-mill, this can help train you on certain postural positions that you're trying to get yourself into. So this is Sam Visnic, again from endyourbackpainnow.com/blog, and feel free to come back and visit the blog on a regular basis. Thanks.